What's good, Osiris here. I got heated, so I knew it was time to press record. That's just how it is with streaming to me. It's like if you get heated, if you get emotional, you could be off track, you could be wrong, but it might be a good time to press record. I joke with my wife, I wish I had like a Google Glass. So whenever I have a rant in my head and I just go on a rant, I could just press record immediately. But what's got me heated is not at any particular person, it's the mentality. And first, I'm going to start with credit to Matt Walsh. I did not expect this from Matt Walsh. He's earned a lot of, I got to do something, just a whole live on this guy. Matt Walsh has the energy. I don't fully agree with him. He is a Ron DeSantis guy. But as a Ron DeSantis guy, Matt Walsh replied to the mixed reaction at best from DeSantis's response to Trump, and at worst, it was low dick energy. Matt Walsh replied and said, "Not good. DeSantis should vow to not extradite Trump and promise to fight this malicious prosecution. It's the right thing to do, and it benefits him politically to be in a position where Trump is relying on him for help. It's a win-win across the board." Unforced error here. Another moment where one Mr. Matt Walsh is just on point, right energy. He followed that up with another tweet underneath it. He was quote tweeting Jack Posobiec. He said, "I understand the argument that there are a lot of rumors right now and not much reliable information, but the fact that Bragg is pursuing this case in the first place is reason enough to a very firm stance, to basically have a very firm stance. There's no downside to speaking out forcefully, even if Trump isn't ultimately arrested. Even if they're just doing this, and it is what it could be, just a circus, to create a circus atmosphere to make it look like we have to protect our city from these rabid Trump supporters. They're basically doing Jussie Smollett on a larger scale. It could be just that. There's benefit to just doing that. We aren't even in 2024 yet, so hang on to that roller coaster. We're in a roller coaster that goes upside down with no seatbelt. You're not locked in. So when 2024 comes, hang on to that roller coaster. We got the money problem with the banks, and this is just the beginning. This is leading into the madness. You can see that T group, the T group that purports itself to be anti-fascist. They are going after people. They're causing problems in Atlanta. They're building up. We saw hordes of them form in Atlanta. Man, wait till this summer. Wait till the Summer of Love Part 2. I don't know what, I have no idea what's in store, but I know it's going to be a crazy year, 2024. If this is 2023, woo! But credit to Matt Walsh. Love that comment from Matt Walsh. But here's what got me upset. So I gave Matt Walsh credit underneath that, absolutely. Even though he kind of came at it, it does benefit DeSantis, because Matt Walsh is a DeSantis guy. So he's like, this does benefit DeSantis politically. But notice, Matt also said it's the right thing to do. Based comment by Matt Walsh. And that when somebody is able to provide constructive criticism to people that they support, they gain a lot of respect in my eyes. Cassandra McDonald said, "I feel like he forgot that he will need to win over Trump's voters if he did win the primary." I said, "That's my biggest problem with him. Terrible strategy nationally. He should just reset this, go back 2028 and reset it for 2028. Because he's obviously, he didn't respond right away. So he's obviously, in my opinion, listening to other people, other voices, and not making quick, authentic decisions." But here's what got me upset. This gets me really upset right now. People who they come across as they try to make themselves seem like they're smart, when in reality, you're not as smart as you might think. And this Chris Manning, I don't know who it is. This is my first time interacting with Chris Manning. I don't know if they're left, right. It doesn't matter. I do not know anything about this account. Could be a bot. Doesn't matter. Chris Manning says, if he did that, so I'm talking about, well, yeah, why doesn't DeSantis, even if DeSantis doesn't want to get involved, like he said, then he could bring up, here's why. The Constitution says this, I'm going to abide by Florida law says this. He didn't do any of that. But so I say with Matt Walsh, whoa, we're not doing any extradition. We don't see this the same way. This is not going to happen. Pappy's going to stay in Florida. Chris Manning says, if DeSantis did that, he'd be in violation of the Constitution. We're talking about the Constitution right now? Do you think New York gives a damn about the Constitution? And I don't want to be in that place. If USA won, I want the Constitution. But when we have this piece of paper, New York doesn't see it the same way I do. So what's the piece of paper for? We don't have the same fundamental beliefs. He'd be in violation of the Constitution. They don't hold themselves to that same standard. He is required by the Constitution to extradite him if New York indicts him. Oh, is he really? Oh, he's really, the piece of paper is going to make him do it, huh? And then he brings up Article 4, Section 2, a person charged in any state with treason, felony, or other crime who shall flee from justice and be found in another state shall on demand of the executive authority of the state from which he fled be delivered up to be removed to the state having jurisdiction of the crime. So I'm not a lawyer, never pretended to be one, but it basically, I feel like it's, okay, if you come over my house and you violate my house rules, I can, do something to you. So if you leave my house and go to another person's house, when I want you to answer for these rules you broke, you got to come back to me, basically is my interpretation of that. But let's continue on and show you why I'm upset. Okay, that's where you're going with that? He'd be in violation of the Constitution? Says who? You? Are you the arbiter of who's violating the Constitution or not? This random Chris Manning? I said SCOTUS, and it would go through the federal courts, but just like Texas v. Pennsylvania, the federal courts don't want those problems. It's going straight to SCOTUS. It would go to SCOTUS, and I would say the same process, even if SCOTUS was wackadoo left, which it will be in future generations if nothing changes. All these woke TikTokers, they're going to be on the Supreme Court. If our culture doesn't change, if we don't break apart into two different countries, that's what's going to happen. Luckily, that's not where we are yet. The Supreme Court, minus some wackadoos, is one of the best we've had. You can give Trump credit for that and whoever advised him and all that, even though I'm not a big... Amy Coney Barrett has not been as good as I thought, but decent. So it doesn't matter about the political leanings of the Supreme Court. They are the ones. So you have beef between this state of the union and another state of the union, interpreting the Constitution differently, then it goes straight up to SCOTUS. Not you, Chris Manning. I don't give a damn what you think about the Constitution. I care about what does DeSantis think. I'm pushing DeSantis to say, whoa. That doesn't say if... Let me play this clip real quick from Trump. He alleged this. Trump alleged that the Justice Department sent their top people. I didn't do the research on this, so my apologies, but I can't confirm or deny. But if the federal government did send help to New York and the charges, and I'm looking at the charges in Florida, I'm like, I don't agree with those charges. So say my kid went to somebody else's house or whatever like that, and they said, oh, they left a wrapper on the ground. They got to come back and pick it up. No, they don't. We made a rule like, oh, if they broke a rule there, they have to come back. You're going to have them come back to, wait, no. I'm not going to just send them back just because we made that agreement. You acting like a damn fool right now, New York. I'm not sending the top candidate for president in 2024. It doesn't matter if he was top or not, but he is. That you've been going after ever since he came down the escalator off of some old stuff. We don't even know if the statute of limitations is up or not. It's just some old BS. I will deep dive into that at some point again, but it's BS. We think it's political. The House is going to investigate it to look at this because it looks like a whole scam that will, you want to do this? It's going to fracture our relationship to the point where we can't even be in the same union anymore. That has to go to the Supreme Court. Chris Manning, I don't give a damn what the Constitution says on that. And that's up for interpretation. Here's Trump talking about, he said this like they sent their best to New York.
Do you know the Justice Department sent their top people to the Manhattan DA's office to help in the prosecution of Trump? This way we have it a little bit away from Washington. It's local. Oh, we had nothing to do, but their top guy was put in that office to help prosecute.
Why does that matter? Because that shows this is a federal government political. They've already passed on these charges from 2016 or 15? These charges are from before he ran for president. Basically, I don't know when they found out about them, but that's when the actions happened. It is important when they found out. But Rampart, thanks for the context. Rampart chatted and said validity of an extradition request can be challenged. I'm not a legal expert, but I've heard of that before. So I go back to this. That's what gets me so angry. It's like, what is this mentality? If he did that, he'd be in violation of the Constitution. What the hell are you talking about? And then I go down, and then I'm talking about this. I get ratioed on this, which is whatever. I don't care. If I'm wrong, I'll change my mind. I haven't changed my mind. So he says the literal text of the Constitution. I said, who decides whether he would violate it or not? He says the literal text of the Constitution does. Well, that's why we have the Supreme Court. So then it kept on going. I said, SCOTUS determines if something is constitutional. SCOTUS handles disputes, again, going through the federal courts, but this is a big one. This goes speed all the way up, and they have to decide if they take it or not. I mean, they could be bitch ass like they did with Texas v. Pennsylvania and said, we don't want any part of it. That was not a good moment in time. That was one of the worst moments for SCOTUS, and probably the worst moment for SCOTUS in my lifetime. And to me, it added validity to the concerns. Because if SCOTUS didn't think there was any validity to the Texas v. Pennsylvania, I think they would have taken it. Because SCOTUS has to look at, when you see them in their confirmation hearings, they always talk about this, from Amy Coney Barrett to Kavanaugh to Ketanji Brown Jackson. They all talk about this and say we have to take into account the societal ramifications of a ruling. So they don't just look at the text of the Constitution and ignore that it's a guy running for president, top candidate, people, they've been going after him forever. These charges aren't legit. They can't ignore that. And then, in fact, if you let New York do this, we might as well just end this marriage. The Supreme Court does not ignore extenuating circumstances. They do not. They factor that in. This has never happened in the history of our country. It's on some flimsy nothingness. SCOTUS absolutely should rule against New York, citing complete chaos otherwise, as factoring it in. That's not a legal argument, but when you read their decisions, they factor everything in. You see that with the First Amendment, 2A, all that. So this ass clown says, you think the SCOTUS has never ruled on extradition disputes between states? What world do you live in? You're comparing past extradition disputes with this moment in time? We haven't even lived in a moment like this before. No president has even been indicted on charges before, a prior president. Nobody running for president, top candidate has been, going for a second term, has been indicted on charges before. What precedent are you going to cite that would compare to this moment? Get the hell out of here. Like when you talk about the First Amendment, everybody says, well, there's some limitations. Okay. That's what the Supreme Court's there for, to say, okay, what are the limitations? And I'm going to keep going with this. I did say you're not as smart as you think you are if you think SCOTUS has ruled on a situation even remotely close to this. And then let me play this clip, or this is a letter where the House is trying to bring in Alvin Bragg. I'm not going to read it, but I'll read a little bit. They said, you are reportedly about to engage in unprecedented abuse of prosecutorial authority, the indictment of a former president of the United States and current declared candidate for that office. The indictment comes after years of your office searching for any basis on which to bring charges. So you see where they're going. They're like, whoa, this ain't some normal thing. So you don't have any precedent, Supreme Court case precedent for this situation with everything involved, so many things involved. It takes a long time to even give you the full context of the moment that we're in right now. So ridiculous. That does not fly with me. People still were replying to me. There's some debate over the extradition. That's not what my concern is. Here's where my anger kind of went. If I can find this, I'm always bad with Twitter. I apologize. I gotta save the links, otherwise. I do have bookmarks on here, but I'm just terrible in using them. So let me go back and find this tweet here. So what really got me upset is actually I don't need the tweet. He talked about the constitutionality of this. Do you think that J6 defenders got any of that same consideration with their constitutional rights to a speedy trial? It's in plain text, Chris, man. It's in plain text. Did they get their right to their speedy trial, or was that just pushed aside for whatever reasons? So you people, it doesn't matter if you're left, right, libertarian, or whatever else, you people like Chris Manning allow Brandon, the state, to exert power on a level we've never seen before, interpret the Constitution however the hell they want to. And then you have this case, which you've got to do the same thing. And you say, no, you can't push DeSantis to contest it. It's in the Constitution. You don't see why people lose? You remember not just J6, there's too many to go through. You remember the OSHA ruling. I mean, we all knew it was unconstitutional to make someone take a needle to have a job. Through OSHA, bypassing the normal feedback process from citizens because of executive orders. I mean, it's just absurd to say that that's a thing that you could do. And no legislation, all executive order. But the better example is the eviction moratorium. The eviction moratorium, to my knowledge, started early September. This is the first article that I saw on it, where, remember, the pandemic came and they said, hey, we had to shut down the economy. No, you didn't. All that kind of nonsense. So evictions are halted. Here's what you need to know. This article is from CNN, September 2nd, 2020. Unconstitutional, clear as day, for multiple reasons, unconstitutional. The Supreme Court knew it. Everybody knew it. They still did it. They knew. I'm not even saying it's unconstitutional for DeSantis. I'm saying I interpret that way different. That piece there, that article, I believe was Article 4, Section 2, it obviously is not going to take into account what's the legitimacy of the extradition request. I'm obviously not going to honor an extradition request that's ridiculous. That doesn't need to be spelled out. How do we define ridiculous? We might need SCOTUS to do it, or we might need to do amendment or something. But this is ridiculous and it ain't happening. So Brandon, knowing it's a violation of, well, this happened in September of 2020. So this is still Trump. But then, so they did this. And then here's where it comes. Supreme Court threw out, so Biden extended it. Supreme Court came through and said, nah, you can't do it. Sorry, do I have the right link there? Let me get this article here. Just to show the article, this is another article from CNN, so September, so the year later. So a year later, evictions are halted. Here's what you need to know. I might have got the wrong link though. But so August 27th of 2021 is when the Supreme Court said, nah, we're not going to allow this. Supreme Court throws out Biden administration eviction moratorium because obviously when he comes in, he owns it. So Biden came in, owns it. That's the administrative state that was against Trump. Trump was flailing at the time in 2020. Biden comes in after J6, all that. Supreme Court throws out the administration eviction moratorium. So at that point, the Supreme Court flat out told him it's unconstitutional. And what did he do? Y'all who follow this know that. He did it again. So he interpreted the Constitution in an unconstitutional manner. The Supreme Court told him it was unconstitutional. You can't force landlords to house people. Then he did it again and then it went to the Supreme Court again. They don't care, yet you care. That's why you're the Democrats' bitch. And I'm not here to. I am not going to throw away my morals. I'm going to do. Matt Walsh said it in his tweet. He said, "This is what's right." I'm not throwing away my morals, so I'm not going to become them. But I ain't going to look at the Constitution and say, "Ooh, this is what the Constitution says." What about 2A? I think the Second Amendment's pretty damn clear. We've been debating it ever since for over 100 years now on what it really means, and intensely over the last few decades. I think the Constitution's pretty clear, but does that matter, Chris Manning or anybody else? No, it doesn't matter. Because people twist the words and all that, they have their own interpretation. I've got my own interpretation, and I think you would be a fool to allow Trump to go get fingerprints. And people talking about how this is going to help him. I don't make any predictions because I've been wrong. I just don't see it. I don't see I think maybe it might help. Maybe it might help with his solid base, but for just normies walking around, it's not helping with that. To me, I don't think this helps with normies. You could tell by DeSantis' response. I think DeSantis thinks that him going fingerprint, mugshot, handcuffed would help him. So I think when people say that it's going to get him elected, Elon Musk doesn't know. Elon Musk, this is not his life. This is not his world. Don't get excited when Elon Musk says, yes, that means he's going to win the election. Just don't. I've been wrong, so I'm not any special, but Elon Musk is not about this life. He's tech guy, engineering, business. Then I default to him, not about this stuff. Same with Tim. Tim's great, Tim Pool. But when it comes to this stuff, nah, this ain't where he lives. Just like when you remember when Milo was on with Tim Pool, everything Milo said has basically come to fruition with it. Because you can think whatever you want about him, like him or dislike him, but the dude gets it. Some people are getting it, some people aren't. So that's why I was mad. That's the real reason. All that right there is the real reason I press record. Coercion violates the Nuremberg codes, right? Yeah, here's another. We've got all kinds of interpretations, all things that should be, thank you, Steve Johnson, for stopping by, all types of things that, in my eyes, should be clear, but we all don't see it the same way. So don't come to me saying I should not push DeSantis to say Trump's not going anywhere. We got to figure this out. It doesn't sound right, doesn't look right. You haven't convinced me. I'm challenging this in whatever courts we need to challenge it in. So don't tell me that DeSantis shouldn't do that because of what you see in the Constitution. Nah, that's why you get bent over. All kinds of First Amendment, every single Bill of Rights basically getting violated. Karine Jean-Pierre, she got into a little bit of a pickle when somebody stepped up to her. His name is, I don't know how to pronounce it exactly. Maybe I have some Tucker clips, so I'll hear how he pronounces it. But Simon Adeba is a White House correspondent reporter for Today News Africa. And for some reason, they just keep ignoring his black ass. His black ass just keeps getting ignored. And I think the problem is, Simon, that you don't realize in America nowadays, if you look like a black man, if you don't put on a skirt or a dress or a wig and high heels, then you don't get heard.
You can't keep discriminating against some people in the briefing room because you don't like them, you don't like them.
So you have a choice.
No,
you have a choice. You have a choice.
A number of people
okay.
in the briefing room, and I'm saying that that's not right. This is not China. This is not Russia. This is the United States. This is the White House.
No.
It's been 7 months. I sent you emails.
The rest of us are here too, pal.
It's been 7 months. You guys have not done anything for me.
If you have grievances, you should bring them to her later.
I have
right
done
now,
that.
This
I've
is
done that. All my emails have been
and
ignored.
the press corps is tired of dealing with this.
It isn't just about you,
I
Simon.
understand that you get questioned all the time and you don't understand what it is to sit here for 8 months and being discriminated against. I understand that you're in the front row and you feel comfortable and you get questioned all the time. But there are people in the back who don't get any questions.
Don't make assumptions about what the rest of us do. Mind your manners when you're in here. If you have a problem, you bring it up afterwards. But you are impinging on everybody in here who's only trying to do their job.
Okay, thank you. I'm saying that you shouldn't discriminate against some people because you don't agree with their question, you're offended by your question.
You made your point.
We all heard it.
Oh, okay. He made his point, huh? Don't bother wondering what that is. I'll tell you what it is. The media press corps ran to the defense of Karine Jean-Pierre against a reporter and their questions. Under no circumstance, if you don't, maybe there's people that don't understand this world all in the First Amendment and press versus those in power. You might need to go look at somebody like James O'Keefe. James O'Keefe is rolling in his game. He's alive. I'm just joking. James O'Keefe is just laughing, not laughing, but just he's probably crying right now watching this. Many other journalists. It doesn't matter whether you agree with Simon Adaba or not. You should defend his right to get a question asked if you're in the press corps. The press corps should not be defending the administration if you don't know. So this guy, Simon, let me just play a little clip from Tucker. He was on with Tucker. And so this guy said, I've been asking questions. They're not returning my emails. They keep ignoring me. And this has been going on for 7 months. And he was very polite. The one dude was just like, hey, we've heard you or whatever. Was trying to shut his black ass up. And he was like, thank you. I would have like, F you. And they kept on going. He was like, thank you. He was very respectful. And the reason why is he asked questions kind of like Ducey. They don't know where he's going to be coming from. I believe they do know the questions ahead of time. Most of them, they kind of send them in and she calls on people. And it's usually Ducey is the only one. Maybe one other person asks a decent question. And he has, when he's gotten questions, I haven't obviously heard him get a question in like 9 months, but when he has a question, it's a good question. And it sparks good discussion. But the press corps jumped in the way, just like, and you see what it is again, another politically black woman. These politically black women are convenient. Just like Joy Reid, we did that live where Joy Reid had Byron Donalds on. And Byron Donalds brought up, well, who's in charge of Capitol security? Nancy Pelosi. And he didn't finish saying Pelosi. He couldn't get the next thought out before Joy Reid was like, no, and interrupted him and just changed the topic and got him off of it. It worked. Another politically black woman, man, they've taken those bullets for the Democrat Party. And you see what happened in return. I want to hear that one more time. But let me go play the Tucker piece here and then just a 38-second clip.
So the White House press secretary doesn't, despite the title, exist to convey information, but to withhold it. And in this White House, the press secretary bans any reporter who asks real questions. And that includes, and it especially includes, a man called Simon Atiba. Simon Atiba is the most famous and we would say finest reporter in all Africa. And that means that Karine Jean-Pierre does not want to talk to him at all. She hasn't called on him in more than 4 months. Now the White House says that Karine Jean-Pierre will not meet with Simon Atiba until next year, which of course means never. Simon Atiba is with Today News Africa. He joins us tonight. Simon, thank you so much for coming on. So the White House press secretary doesn't.
I'm interested. So I did keep the full clip just in case. I am interested, and I have not listened to this full interview. So let's just listen to a little bit, break it up. Let's listen to a little bit of this interview since we're on this topic.
You want to know what a complete sham, what a fraudulent, grotesque perversion of reality the White House briefings have become. You should see what happened today. The low IQ White House press secretary brought in a bunch of TV actors to stand there so she could promote a TV show for some reason. Why are we doing this again? She never really explained. Mental Health Day or something. None of them were doctors. But at the same time, even as she was promoting a TV show, the White House press secretary refused to take questions from actual reporters. First on that list would be our friend Simon Atiba of Today News Africa. So today Atiba just got frustrated and called out the White House press secretary for ignoring his actual questions for months. Watch what happened next.
What you are doing, you are making a monthly of the First Amendment.
So that's the part there. Let's fast forward. Let's hear a little bit from him in the interview here with Tucker.
Simon, thank you so much for coming on. We're really glad to have you. What prompted, you seem very frustrated there. What prompted your exchange with the press secretary?
Yes, thank you, Tucker. Thank you for having me on your show. I'm grateful. You know, the First Amendment protects the freedom of speech, the press, and assembly, and the right to petition your government to seek redress. And
Yes.
that First Amendment says that I have the right to ask questions, to do my job, and the press secretary doesn't need to like me, date me, marry me, have 2 black children with me. She doesn't need all that. She doesn't even need to like my accent, doesn't need to like what I look like, where I come from. They look down on me. They don't respect the First Amendment. And so what has been happening in the White House is, in the past 7 months, I've done all the right things. I've not been called on. I've gone to her office to seek a meeting. She said that she will meet with me next year. I've sent questions about the Nigerian election, about, you know, the problems, challenges in Africa. And they've not called on me, even as the vice president is going to Africa, even as the first lady, Jill Biden, went to Africa, even when they received 50 African leaders for the U.S.-African Summit in Washington, D.C., the guy who covers the White House, the African guy who covers the White House, is looked down upon in the greatest country in the world, in the most advanced country where freedom of speech is protected. It's a shame what happened today. One of the guys that you showed there now, Brian, he was kicked out of the WACA because he became violent in the Rose Garden. It's a disgrace. It's very violent. He attacks many people. It's a shame. What happened to me today, it's a total disgrace, and it's happening in the Biden White House. And you know, when it happens to Jim Acosta of CNN, because they respect him, he's white, he works for CNN, I'm black, I'm African, I don't have money, they look down on me, I don't have the opportunities that they have, and they don't treat me the same way. I need to do my job. The freedom of speech and the press in the U.S. allows me to do my job, and that's the only thing that I'm trying to do. And they are stonewalling me, trying to help Karine Jean-Pierre, and it's a shame.
Excellent job by Tucker. He's a great interviewer, letting him go, no interruptions, just like he did with Ye. And you got a special moment right there with, I keep forgetting how to pronounce his name, so I apologize for messing that up, but the passion that he has for the American Constitution and how it's being violated. Big ups to him. But next time, put on a wig, talk about how everything's racist, and you'll probably get a question asked. Just a tip. I got to get out. I'm going to leave out with, I thought, a good comment from Donald Trump, and this is the biggest thing on my mind right now, politically, at least. Seeing what's going to happen. It doesn't look like there's going to be any type of arrest today or anything like that, but I don't know. I don't know what's going on. They got the city barricaded with at least Manhattan, the Manhattan DA's office and the courtroom and all that. And here's what Trump had to say. And I'm out. Thanks for stopping by. Appreciate you.
Sir, we can hear you loud and clear. And Pastor Jackson Lawmeyer wanted to pray for you tonight. And we'd just like to ask you, is there anything specifically that we could be praying for you as a man and the soon-to-be 47th President of the United States? How can we pray for you tonight, sir?
Well, the best thing you can do for me is to pray for our country and the safety of our country, because, as I just said, the danger that we're in now, I think, is greater than any danger we've ever had. We have no leader. We are not a respected country by these other very hostile countries, in some cases very hostile. And I think the greatest thing that I can ask for is a prayer for our country, for our safety. And we have to get through this period of time. This has been a horrible period of time for the United States of America. Leadership has taken us in many, many bad directions, and we're a failing nation. We're right now a failing nation. So the most important thing I believe that we can do right now is pray for the safety, the security, and the success and future success of our country. That would be the thing I would ask you to pray for.